Hey Emily, so I thought I'd make a video about the Family Feud game and the final subjunctive project because it's honestly kind of complicated. Um, so, definitely, I mean, you're someone who's always really far ahead and looks very far ahead, so I'm sure you're doing this before, like the day before you would start this project, because you definitely will need to kind of get a feel for what it looks like. So first, the actual project directions, which are linked in the lesson plan. As it says in there, I would read through the whole thing. And some things to emphasize here is that students are writing 2 questions or more as a survey, and they're giving 8 options for the survey for each question, so 16 options total. The biggest thing I told them about multiple times is to check out the example survey that I made. Ooh, I should make sure that that's in here. I did, okay. And it's right above the rough draft, and it's at the bottom of the first page. So when they check that out, they'll see what is a good format and like what I'm looking for. Because I will say, I think it's a bit confusing, understandably, what I was trying to make for a Family Feud game. And pretty much all students at this level understood and could do it, with a few exceptions. So I think it went fine, especially with the example. But you could also not do the Family Feud part. If you didn't do the Family Feud part, then I would instead change it to maybe like 4 questions with 8 options each and just make it a larger assignment. And then I would still think it's cool to make the survey, the Google Form survey, and have them give each other the survey because it's just kind of fun. But you wouldn't need to do necessarily the last steps here where they take the results and they put them in another Google slide that you then use to make the Family Feud game. So I'll leave that up to you. But I'll walk you through the first parts and I'll let you know where you can stop if you don't plan on doing the Family Feud part. So 2 questions. So an example, like these would be 2 questions. So which of the options below do you think is more important about school? And then I always told them you need to tell them that they should only choose 4 out of 8 options. Otherwise, people will just choose all 8. So like, what are your top 4 options about school? So I want that my brother doesn't bother me. I want that my parents make me lunch, right? Using the subjunctive, we had to talk a lot about making sure your subject changes. If you want to play it safe, es más importante que is definitely the easiest one to go with. I was fine if they did it on both of them. And that's the one we used in almost all of our, anytime we really used it in class, I guess. There's some examples with I desire or I wish or it's doubtful on like what they can do. And that usually gave them a good enough idea of how to word it. So the bottom part has the rough draft and it says not to submit it, I think, in the Schoology part at any time, because what they're going to do is when they're done with their rough draft, they should do a peer edit. I didn't make a peer edit thing for this one. But then they're going to take it, right, the rough draft, they're going to take it and they're going to make a Google form. I then made a video. Some of these videos, I'm not really sure if they're still going to exist when my account ends.
Hola.
Because I can't disconnect my YouTube account. This account is just, it is what it is. The YouTube videos may or may not be gone. I don't know. I've looked up everything and there is no way to transfer them. So, but hopefully it still exists. And if it does, and I'm going to post this one on my personal YouTube channel, so it should actually work. But this will show them how to make a Google form from the beginning, like going into Google Drive, new Google form, all of that stuff. It will then tell them to copy paste their question and their options, and then to make sure that they have it set to, multiple check boxes instead of multiple choice, so people can choose more than one, etc. It's got all of that in there already. So hopefully, like I said, it works. It even says to copy your questions and answers. So then what they do is they put their surveys into a Google Doc that has a list of surveys. And all of this is in the Unit 2 Subjunctive in the 5B folder in the Subjunctive Proyecto Final. So you have the periods list of surveys, and then there's also something called the results from the surveys that I'll go through on this as well. So again, you could stop here, but I would really have people take the surveys just because it's really fun to do that part. So when they open the list of surveys, it'll look like this. You can copy it. You can just change it. I made it editable for everyone. Whenever it loads, anyone can edit it. And then they put their name and they put the links to their surveys. And again, this video, I'm pretty sure, tells them to make sure that their share setting is set so that they have it set correctly for people to take their surveys as well. Like, I'm pretty sure I did everything in there that was necessary. I had people sign up first and then I changed the background color. So these colors, as you'll notice as you go, correspond with when they take each other's surveys. So they weren't taking 1,000,000 in one day. So one day it'd be like, take all the red surveys. And the next one would be like, take all the blue surveys. And then here's the part, if you don't want to play Family Feud, which again was super fun, and if you feel that you can do it, I would recommend doing it. What they did is they took the results then and they put it into okay, this is what it was. Shows how to get the link for their survey. I was like, I swear I had that somewhere. So this video will show them here how to get a link for other people to take their survey. And then when we get to the results section, there's another video on how to complete these like boxes basically, because they don't know where to find their survey results. A lot of them don't know they need to go to responses, and then they need to like highlight the actual colored, I guess, bar. Otherwise, sometimes if your answers are really long, it like won't line up and it'll look super weird and not give you very good amount of answers. So then what they do is they, one last time, copy and paste their answers. So here was an actual person's. I'll do Claire's because she always has stellar Spanish. They copy and paste their questions and then their answers, their options, and then they put how many people responded to each, which option most people, the amount of people that responded that option was what they wanted about being at home is what she had for this one. So like the top answer was, I want that my parents spend a lot of time with me at home. Oh, I'm sorry, that makes more sense. I want that my friends spend a lot of time with me at home. That was like their number one answer. All right, so here's the new stuff. Making the Family Feud. So I would say you could just take my Family Feud all questions version and use that. I think that that's the easiest version. I will say that you might need to kind of study up on this PowerPoint presentation and play around with it before you learn how to use it. I'm probably not going to go through all of that in this video. But I had to play around with it a little bit. It is a completely pre-made, preset Family Feud. It's amazing, honestly. Okay, well, it's going to take, maybe. Oh my gosh. All right. It is a preset, pre-made Family Feud presentation that literally runs exactly like the game. This will probably take a little while. But once I get it loaded, I can show you. Oh, it's opening twice for some reason. It's not. I don't know why I did that. Weird. So, like if I show you from the beginning, it literally has the sound, the music, right? Click start game. Everyone was like clapping at the beginning. The teams chose their names. And then you'll see you have team, obviously their names would show up there then, and then you start the round. It shows them their options. You click here to show them, you click here to show the question. And then this one, I give them a nice easy one to start out with. I gave them the subjunctive already. And then they have to guess what the top answers are, basically. I watched one episode of Family Feud to make sure I kind of knew how the game worked, or I looked up how to play Family Feud, because if you don't know how to play like I didn't, it's kind of weird. But basically, only one team gets all the points every time. There's no in between. So if team 2 got it, then you add the points to them before you reveal the last ones, because students always want to know what were all of them. And then you move on to the next round, right? Sometimes it does crash. I had that issue a couple times, and it's really frustrating. So I would recommend, I would recommend writing the points down as well. Here is the X if people get stuff wrong. So once a team gets 3 X's, the other team goes, and then they only need to find 1 to get all the points on the board. Some things, the top left corner, if you notice this, I've got these little numbers. That was what period each of these questions were from. Period 1, I did 4 from period 1. This one has all the questions that were made. 4 from period 2. And my plan in the future was maybe not even having to use the students in class, their responses, and I could just have like a set version of this. That would be super fun. You can see as it goes that it gets more into actual subjunctive. So like, what is important to be a good friend? And they have to start with, es importante que escuches a tus amigos, es importante que pases mucho tiempo juntos, right? So then you're using that. When I played, I was not harsh on their conjugations. And I gave each team about 1 minute or I think 90 seconds to work together to write down their answers. So when they would see, yes, I know. So when I showed them the question, I would set a timer and I would let the teams actually write down their answers, which is not a part of Family Feud, but that way it gave them some time to actually get their subjunctive correct. You could also change it up and try to do like you get a half point if you didn't conjugate it correctly, or make it a little bit more intense if you really want for the subjunctive. But at this point, it was kind of more of like a good job, everyone, you finished your final project, and let's just play a game with it. So the points. Moving on to points. There's a lot to go through with this. So what I did is, depending upon the size of the class, like period 1 was massive, but period 2 and 3 were not. I kind of just like guesstimated points more or less based on what I saw online for how points generally worked. So for period 1, a lot of times I just doubled or tripled the points. So if this was the top answer, that one would be worth 36 points. The biggest complaint I had from students was that it wasn't fair because in real Family Feud, the survey that they give to people is open-ended instead of 8 pre-made options. So it was really hard to guess what the top answers were going to be because it was really dependent on like what Claire chose to put as her top answers. But for me, I didn't mind because I went through, I have a whole bunch of these and I went through and I just found the best options. If you have a really large class, I did split, this class was like 24 and I just split them into 2 groups and they were totally fine with that, a size of 12 and a size of 12. And it was basically like 2 people worked as 1 person. So really it was 6 versus 6, if that makes sense. So I know probably bigger sizes next year for Spanish 5. That would be another recommendation to still make the game fun. You could try 1v1v1, but I honestly don't even know how that would work. So yeah, everyone had to put the results here. And if some kids didn't, like it didn't really matter. I didn't take it off from this at all because there were just enough to choose from anyway that I could make the game. So again, I did 4 from period 1, 4 from period 2, and then 4 from period 4. And then this was the all questions version, and then when I made each hour's version, I would just delete the 4 from that hour. So period 1 wouldn't have any period 1 questions because otherwise the person who made that question is probably going to know the answers. So that is a quick lowdown, a more or less quick lowdown as fast as I could about how to do this. The only part I actually graded, just so you know, is from the list of surveys, I graded their form, their Google form. So I just went through like this and then gave them a grade. I didn't make a rubric in Schoology, but you could, I don't think I did, maybe I did, but you could certainly do that in the rough draft part, but I didn't want them to hand in the rough draft, so I just gave them a point out of 32, and then I put in the grade book like, hey, if you disagree or if you want more points, like talk to me, we can set up a time to go through it. Because some people didn't do subjunctive at all for some weird reason. And then, oh man, there was something else. If they didn't do a Google form, I actually just went into their rough draft anyway and just graded it from the rough draft. So like I said, the Google form is important, but it wasn't the end. It wasn't like the end if they didn't do the Google form. Same with the results. That was really just more for the game. So that's kind of how you take this. And from steps 5 through 6, and especially step 6, you like make the Family Feud game out of it. You can always email me on my personal email, or maybe I'll have sent you my new Osseo Senior High email. I don't mind at all still helping you guys when I can from there. So, but yeah, you just like, you literally double click in these boxes to type in the text. You change the points and it like updates everything magically on its own. It's pretty impressive, I'm not going to lie. There is a fast money version at the end that I did make a survey for, but we ended up not using anyway and there wasn't enough time. So I would honestly probably just leave it out. There was a final question that isn't in this version, but I did it in the other versions. And it was actually based on me. So that's something super cool that you could do. Is something like, what does Senorita Surfing think is important to be successful in life? And they had to like guess basically. So I can't think of anything else with this, but like I said, you can always let me know if you have any other questions with it. Hopefully that kind of helps you with how to do the game and even really the evaluation part of this at the end of the subjunctive unit.